We'll go quickly through this presentation because we've got a good amount of work to do. I will say we've got this month and next month for this type of discussion. We'll do a check-in at the end of the day to see how we feel about if we're going to need another, depending on how discussions go. We'll see what we can get through. We are to the point everyone's been waiting for, the evaluations of actual sites. So we've made it through the first two steps. This group helped us navigate. So we've got a boundary within which we're looking for sites. We've got criteria that are helping us evaluate sites on the third step, which is looking at actual site ideas. Just reinforce that I told this to commission last week when we got the criteria approved. These criteria are going to help us hopefully sift out some of the better sites from some of the ones with more challenges, but I don't expect that we got the scoring perfect. So your work this month and next month will help shape what you all think are the top few sites that move towards the concept development phase. Commission will inform that as well. So the survey concluded this last Thursday at noon. We've got 146 unique survey participants, and they listed 310 pins on the map. So we got a lot of comment. There were some percentage of pins that fell outside the boundary, about 12%, but that still left a really large chunk of ideas that people gave us inside the downtown area. 29 unique sites that people pointed to. Not all of those are viable. So of those you'll see around the room, and everything that is in the room is also posted online in the meeting invite. 14 sites are viable. They don't have any criteria that disqualifies them. They may have different challenges or different opportunities. 11 of them are disqualified due to one of the criteria that would allow that. So could be a private property owner who's not willing to sell, could be a flood hazard zone. There's a couple of others. And there's 4 different sites that we're still waiting to hear back from private property owners. So to indicate if they are willing to. The room set up differently today than our typical meeting. So I thought this type of process probably lends itself better to you being able to look at stuff, write down some ideas, talk with each other one-on-one or in small groups. I'd like to do that for just about half the meeting and come back together as a group and talk through some things and see what we should think about the next month. The packets that you all have on your clipboards have each of the sites listed, a space for you to write down what you think are pros or cons to those sites that maybe aren't captured in the criteria. There are whatever that site is currently ranked is listed. So around the room, you'll see a section on the south wall with all of the 14 sites that are able to be scored. I listed out the top 5 since we talked about advancing 3 to 5 for city commission to concept phase. One of the things I want you to think about is if you agree with that or have some arguments for why, the site should be scored higher or lower. I want you to note that there might be intangibles or things that aren't fully captured in the criteria that you might think make a site better or worse.
So that type of feedback you're looking for directly on the sheet, or you need us to tell you that out loud, or what type of?
Would be helpful. I'm going to try to characterize everything we learned today from the group. So, there'll be some people online too. I'll ask them to put stuff in the chat. But yes, if you could write it down, that's great. If we talk about it, I'll be taking notes as well. But we'll try to carry this through so that I would expect you all will make some adjustments. So we'll want to carry through what people's thoughts are. That's on that side of the room. The back of the room has the disqualified sites. All of those packets have whatever criteria disqualified them that shows why. So you can look at those packets. And then there's the pending sites off to the right as well. Each of the packets on the table has a cover sheet that lists all of the scores and its total score. It has a sheet that then shows the existing site conditions from a lot of different angles, an overhead, like a Google Earth 3D, a Google Street View, like kind of real person image, and then 14 pages, one that scores each of the criteria and explains why we chose the scoring we did. As you look through your packet, there are some occasional notes. There will be bullets where I have a question for you all. I wasn't completely confident in the score we assigned on a given criteria. And so I'm asking for your help taking a close look specifically at those. See if you agree on how we've that. Not everything's completely right. Last thing I'll say on this is there are stickers on your sheets that you have in front of you, 5 stickers. And so I'm asking you to note your top 5 sites. So we can start to understand if there's some consensus around any of these sites to be in the group of concept sites or not. Since we talk about 3 to 5, I am talking with FTA to understand if they want us to limit the number of sites they do a NEPA review on. They haven't given me an answer yet, so we're still going to score our top 5. But your top 3, I gave you green stickers for those. I have a board over here with all the sites listed out, the 14 that are scoreable. And then the yellow ones for your 4th, 5th top site in your opinion. So, like I said, the scoring that we have on the boards and on the packets are us taking a pass through that criteria. I would expect that, like I said, it's not perfect. So that would be important work of you all helping understand anything that helps clarify a good site from a less good site. On the very last sheet of the packet that you all have, there's a list of there's a lot of duplicative type information. I'm trying to get the information in different ways. Some people's brains work differently. So if you'd like to write your list, if you'd like to put your dots up, just trying to capture what you all think kind of as we move through this. Talked through this, but I did not go to the slide. I guess other materials that you have available to you, there are a couple of maps up. I listed, if you're a visual person, kind of where sites are within the boundary on the maps that are on the boards. There's a table as well that lists them off to the right. So you can take a look at all of that stuff and ask me any questions. Hoping we can do this type of review. You all to walk around and look at things for about 25 minutes, maybe 9:35. I'm back here for group discussion or questions, try to understand where we're at and where we might be next month. I do recognize since a couple of folks came in to the waiting room. I will just briefly say we're going to spend the next 25 minutes or so looking through the sites. Everybody in the room here has the same information that is linked on the website agenda. So using the site evaluation form, looking through the list, trying to note what you think should be ranked differently than was ranked through the first pass of scoring. Have any questions online? Because I know it's a little bit different for you all compared to here in the room. Okay, I'll be available for questions, so I encourage you to get up. Like I said, all the chat. Okay, thank you, Tony. It's won't the clipboards get them to write on that. Think I got any stickers?
Oh.
Oh, it's security. I'll get you that. Yeah, I'll give you. Okay.
What are your thoughts on where it is now?
I was kind of thinking, but I don't.
So that's one of the options we have.
What type of?
Uh,
Stickers, clipboard.
Oh,
So where it is now, we have a really big safety issue with mid-block dart outs.
Oh,
All the buses
sure.
are lined up sort of parallel to each other. And people are crossing from one side of the street to get to the library.
Sure.
There's no
There's no
crosswalk,
crosswalk.
certainly no signal crosswalk, and it's, I guess, common knowledge with all the bus drivers, like it's just really dangerous. Like we see cars get kind of anxious around buses and they want to zip around as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And it's an accident waiting to happen. It's really scary. A
Uh-huh.
lot.
Right.
Like on a daily basis, I see something really scary, so. Yeah, it's. Also, AT&T hates us. They are so irritated with us being there. They have that lot there, and so they pull out. And they hate having to like peek around the buses out safely. And they also hate all the bus people as they're trying to pull out, maneuver around them. That climbing gym really hates us.
We don't hate you at the senior.
I know.
We love you guys. We're so
Return.
grateful for the ease
Yeah.
of access, but we understand there are other issues at play.
Yeah, but I mean, it is. Like, I love the library. I love being close to the library, and it's a great central location, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love being able to run into La Primatazza from time to time if I need to pick me up.
I wonder if the plan could accommodate things like a crosswalk.
Yeah, those are the notes that I have for that one. Yeah, I don't know how to proceed really. I've got all my notes. I'm like, do I try
Right.
do I wait until we talk? But yeah, do you have like questions about it? I guess I could answer questions.
Yeah, I mean, because you're out there every day, I'm just so curious, like, from your perspective, what would be like your dream spot?
My dream spot. I mean, dream spot straight up 9th and Mass, all four corners. With like
Right?
an awesome like canopy.
Uh-huh.
Building there for us, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But I know that that's not likely to happen.
But the
Or, like,
closest to that
underground.
is 13. Wouldn't it be?
13.
I mean, I think that's a 900 block of Vermont Street.
Yeah.
Site 13?
Mm-hmm.
My site 13 is the riverfront.
I was just looking at the map right there. That's the ranking.
Okay.
I was looking at that number.
Are you looking east side or west side?
So I think it's
7, 8, 9.
I know it's, yeah.
That's 5.
lot five,
Yeah.
005,
Mhm.
our city parking lot 5.
Yeah.
It's the closest to your dream spot. It's also
Yes.
my dream. spot.
Oh, really?
It is, yeah. And
Yeah.
there's one diagonally across from there that is my dream spot.
The west side of 900 block
Yeah,
Vermont?
006,
Why?
because
I read
that's the one that's actually closest to where I live.
Uh-huh.
And the homeless resource center, it abuts that lot. And then there's a encampment diagonally across from it, and there's like such a constantly, it's like an extraordinarily chaotic spot.
Well, wherever the buses go,
I understand that,
It's a
yeah.
lot of eyes. It'll become a very policed area, no matter where we go. Like right now, at the library is the most policed area in town. Like that is where everything, like there's cameras, there's drivers, there's library staff, and then there's the police patrol that goes through there pretty regularly. And wherever we go, we already have commitment from the police that they're wanting to increase foot patrols around the buses, so.
Right. I know just like as like a woman walking around alone in Lawrence at night, that block is my least favorite block to walk. Like I've had issues that were unpleasant
Same with my 100+ female employees downtown.
on that block.
The block where the bus is.
The, what do you call it? The, parking lot number 9, west side of 900 blocks of Vermont.
My concern with those is that there's just such a heavy. There's those 4 churches that are right on that one spot that funerals, weddings, and what Sunday mornings, obviously, that's no big deal. But the funerals and weddings, those are really difficult, and they just bring in a lot of older adults that would have a harder time getting to and from. Those are just some,
Right, from that same
from
block.
that, from either of those 2 Vermont lots. Adam, is this the time when we can ask you questions?
Yeah,
Is that
I think so.
okay? The number 1 site, the 8th Street between Kentucky and Tennessee, and then the other one that's the 7th Street between Kentucky and Tennessee. How would this impact driving? I was driving on those. There's parking on one side and then the 2 lanes. So it's not as wide. Neither of those is quite as wide. Is that right?
They're both fairly wide, but they do have parking on parallel parking on both sides.
Oh, is it on both
One-
sides?
One has it on both sides, one has it just.
8th Street only has it on one side, right? That's what I was thinking of.
So, in both of those cases, I think it's criteria number 12 maybe is about impact to like traffic flow. Using either of those sections would require closure of those sections of street to auto. You have bus bays on either side of the street. Sign it, buses only. You'd of course have people cutting through every now and again, but largely you'd get reasonable compliance because there's ways for people to get around nearby with the other street grid area, but you would separate vehicle uses if you used either of those blocks.
Okay.
The 8th Street ones ends up scoring a little bit higher because of only having there's less parking impact. There's less parking there in the first place. And then it's already constructed in concrete, which is a value add for us.
Central Bank, west part. But you didn't account for emergency services moving down that street and pulling out of that fire station. Seconds count as an emergency. And so we're really gonna wanna divert them around, or we're gonna just say whenever they need to, they go out. Everyone just has to stop and be cool, because
Which
that's
is what we do
they think.
today,
Yeah, it happens pretty regularly.
And that's
They-
like 002, that's right by the fire department.
Well, there's the 01, 02, and 06, I think are the ones that I was like, no, not 06.
06, yeah, that's the
The-
9th.
20
From Bob.
is the one that I was like, how does that then impact
Mhm.
emergency services being able to flow quickly and easily? Just when you turn off of 6th Street, you gotta go down, and
Here's the Central Bank, the Midwest one.
it is also at 8th and between Tennessee and Kentucky, but it's the parking lot instead of the street. So it's it's south of the pool, the swimming pool.
Oh, okay.
It's site number 1, isn't it?
It is adjacent, it's south of site number 1. So there's 2 things that are right there next to each other. One's the actual road and then one's the parking lot, right? Okay.
Yeah. Site number 1 is just the road.
Mhm.
Site number 15 is Bank of Midwest parking lot.
you've spoken with the entities that are private owners that are open to selling,
Yeah,
do you talk about costs with them yet, or is that,
no,
okay?
so that's, you just don't have enough time. In this process to talk about that from the very beginning. So we're just trying to understand, are they willing or not? And so we've had people tell us no. I've had people say yes and have actual discussions about impact later. But the challenges, there's, as you can see in some of the packets, there's some crude design work that we're doing now to understand if things fit, but understanding actual impacts, like architectural designs, the down the road piece of the puzzle. So
if
in some cases, we might not need the entire site of some of these privately owned lots, we might see part of it.
Part of it. And so there's possibility that if we all were like, oh, our favorite spot is one of those, that it still could get boshed because it would become price prohibitive.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, I mean, there's appraised cost of sites, so we know that, but.
Yeah.
But we don't know market cost till we go. Try to negotiate.
Okay.
So, back up left. Right. In repair, what's the White House?
That's right, go ahead.
LWN guest.
It's still the view.
Counts, Donner.
Yes. Move around, brother.
Can you remind me again, when do you want our stickers to go on the wall? During this meeting?
I'm hoping before our discussion, because I think it gives us something.
Like within the next 10 minutes?
Ideally.
I can do it.
Because I don't know if you heard that part of it. It's possible for you to help identify what your top 3 or 5 are, put them in the chat, that'll help us and we can add it, so that's other people do that. We of course have the big ranked list, part of the agenda, but you have things you believe elevate sites up into the top 3 or 5. You'd let us know, that would help us add it to everyone else's comments.
So we are gonna rank before we talk about it?
I think it'll inspire discussion.
Or is this just for us to pile our thoughts for discussion?
Like to capture it all today, but if you'd like to keep them and think about it for next month as well, we'll continue this discussion next month. We can
And
do that.
do you want my guardians on or are we anonymous?
Need that, I mean, we'll be talking about it in the group, so. Cool.
Sorry, I didn't understand.
Site two issue with fires. So Blaine asks about site number two, any potential issue with fire station trucks entering and exiting? Yes.
We all.
So I think I put a note, yeah, I put a note on that one
Take your
to
time.
ask you, I ranked it as, or criteria number one, which asks about, is there physical space to fit that space that we need there? I said yes. Trying to be flexible in these areas and not taking anything off the table if it is have to, but that site is tight. We would have to nestle right up to the entrance of an exit for the fire trucks. And of course, we would get out of their way if we need to, but that is something that makes that site challenging. There's that entrance on the north side, there's an alley entrance on the south. And those couple of things make spacing pretty challenging. Yeah. Site number two.
Yeah, I think I had a question.
Yes, LW. So we have to do that. Thanks, yeah. Yeah.
A term that I don't know, watershed?
The amount of time to walk a certain area, so we talk about. There's a criterion related to how close is it to the center of downtown, Acton, Mass.
Oh, okay, that's,
5 minute walk shed,
That's the
will be the places you can walk within 5 minutes from that.
okay, that makes sense then for the one that saw it on.
Yeah.
So it's scored as low. On criteria 12 for site 20, but the last sentence, I think that's a typo that it may be used. If
Yeah.
it doesn't need reconstruction or it does need reconstruction.
Probably would.
It would need
Would
reconstruction.
need reconstruction. So, yeah, let me make a broad comment
So would
about
that be,
criteria number 12 right now,
Yeah.
just for you all to think about that one. So criteria number 12 is about cost driving factors. Are there things that would cause elevated cost on a site? I tried to be consistent across the different sites and how I scored that one. If it was a site where all of the bus bays remained in the right of way, that requires a lot less space because we don't have to turn an entire circle to get in and out of somewhere. So if we remain completely in the right of way, generally rank that as a low amount of cost driving factors. If it was an off-street site parking lot. Some site where about to get in, park out, and back out. We're talking about a site that looks very similar to the platform. So in general, I rank those as I think a medium in average cost driving factors. Just because of the extra paving and platform space that would be needed. Open to thoughts about if that feels right to you as a group as far as how that's scored, but those,
I think it's the best way to get started. If we could reach it, as we get like a smaller list and we start getting our kids in, we could take that to the. But I think for us, I'm like, go through an entire estimate from a contractor, like I wouldn't really, I'm not qualified to make that call even. Does that make sense?
Got about 3.5 minutes left.
Blaine, I'm gonna figure standard out for you. Feel pressure to put up all 5 stickers if you really love 2 sites only, really love 3 sites only. And that information helps us move towards them.
Yeah, it's so fun to see. What people
I didn't choose that one because I thought it felt kind of fun.
This one?
015 that everybody's.
I tried.
You did?
Yeah, but
It
it's
didn't
a-
feel
it's a
far
nice
for you,
shade,
these.
but, you know, it's like, I saw some of these other ones that I'm considering. It just seems like such a nice place to. You have to spend any, there's so many trees.
And that's by the pool.
It's by the pool, so it's like in the middle of Mass, even though it's 2 blocks off. Yeah, just, I don't know. I'm seeing like it could become kind of a nice space.
Got 1 minute left.
For me, some of the ones that are located like further down now or north, that it's like the box so
North.
far if you were going either.
Even like the law enforcement centers.
Sorry, but yeah, like if we're on either end, then it's
Yeah.
hard to solve too. But since this one, since oh 15, yeah, since it's still.
The 2 dealers online.
The one behind my door. Right, I think it's 25 minutes.
Okay.
Move on to the discussion.
That's how we feel in
So. ready to stick in some rain.
Think that's okay. We're kind of experimenting today, so.
You know, it's like I'm kind of looking at the detail.
Yeah.
The maps, I don't know that I don't know if I'm ready to say. My favorites yet.
Let's step off the ledge here into some discussion.
Dun, dun, dun.
As we finish up our discussion. Uh, Generally, I'm interested in how the information you have available to you are not helpful. So you think about how today was looking for stuff and trying to feel about what makes sense to you and what worrisome to you. Are there this information is available on the project website? We've got all of the packets that are out here are linked through. If you're curious about any of them, you can take a deep dive throughout the next month or our next meeting. Are there other pieces of information that would be useful, having it packaged a different way, help you think about the options, because there are a lot of them. It's not a small amount of information to look through. I recognize that.
I think this is great.
Yeah.
Did an excellent job.
I think for me, just including like the dot map, like help, just so I don't think you have to look at that. That's the only one thing that like, I just need that like visual for that, but
One that shows kind of where everything is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super helpful.
Out there, yeah.
I'm kind of struggling to go find all the maps.
but otherwise it's all very good for sure.
Okay.
That was the only comment I had, just because for the orientation purposes of matching it, but small, otherwise really excellent information.
Okay.
And well put together.
Appreciate that. That said, I'm looking over towards the dot map and definitely seeing some centering around sites that were not necessarily the top 3 to 5, which I think is good. I think it's an indicator you all are thinking about some other things that aren't specifically captured in the scoring model. So I'm interested in hearing about some of that. I guess I'm interested in talking about the top couple that look like they have quite a bit of support or interest going on. So site number 20 is the portion of 7th Street, Kentucky in Tennessee. It's got Watson Park on the north side. And on the south side, there's basketball court and the pool a little farther south. So I hear from folks who liked that idea. What sort of things stood out to you about that?
Well, for me, it's the access to a lot of services. One of the other big ones that I look at is the traffic flow coming off of 6th. So people are already kind of going slow there. You've got a pedestrian crossing already laid in on one side of that area. So people are already used to kind of slowing down in that, and it wouldn't be much of a change for their behavior as buses are turning and people are walking out of that. And it's, right next to the pool. So it's great for people who want to use it that are in the need of that, right there, the library, post office. That's why I lean towards it.
I use that street every day, and I think my life would be just fine if I didn't have to use that street every day. It's already kind of an awkward street. It almost feels like, let's just shut her down. It feels very accident prone the way that it's currently set up, actually. And I don't know if it actually is accident prone, but
I've almost gotten in a couple accidents.
Have you?
Megan, are you?
Would the bus bays be on both sides of that street or just one side?
Correct. Yeah, to fit the appropriate bays, you'd have bays on each side of that street. You would sign it as open only for bus traffic and not for automobile traffic. And you'd send people, depending on what direction they're going on, Kentucky or Tennessee, you'd send them to 6th or to 8th to get where they needed to go.
The accident prone you're talking about, is it that block where this bus station would be, or are you talking about a different part of 7th Street?
oh, I'm talking about that specific block between the little gazebo and the basketball court and the pool. Like, that's very specific area it could be, I feel like it could be reutilized in a way that's probably just better for the common good.
Should data around the accidents, I know we have that.
Yeah, we don't have it as part of this project yet, but right now concurrently, the Vision Zero project has got a bunch of mapping related to where our accidents are in town, so we could look at.
I think that could be
information.
helpful as people are trying to decide this.
Shutting down the street to through traffic. How will that be cooperated with?
You know, we have a no smoking and vaping policy on this entire site. Up by the building, out on the platform. We have a PA system that goes off every half an hour, reminding people that probably get 10 or 15 cigarette butts a day. So it's not completely complied with, but people do generally comply. That would probably be the similar answer I would give to the buses only signage. Every once in a while, you're gonna have somebody just go through. But I think in general, when people see signs, most of them will follow them. So
I was gonna say, there's an awful lot of signs that indicate one-way traffic on Tennessee and Kentucky, and people may or may not pay any attention to that, so.
It's the same compliance.
Kind of in the same vein.
So there's quite a bit of a hill incline or decline south side of that street, or would we have to work with that at all, or would everything be on the existing?
yeah, so laying out, especially without needing through lanes necessarily. The site should, both the 7th and 8th, because they're basically the same layout, would only use the space between the sidewalks, which does not include the steep grade that happens after the sidewalk. So there should be ample room to get the bays in there without really significant retaining walls. And we'd start to get pretty concerned if we had to bump it into Watson Park. That is a flood hazard zone. Lots of people love that park. So the 7th Street site would remain within the boundaries of the sidewalks.
Yeah, that's also, so they just installed that new signal crosswalk there. Am I correct there? Yeah.
You're right,
Yeah, to cross
Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah. So that's, I feel pretty good about that. Like I've seen that be utilized. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to like separate that neighborhood there from like the rest of downtown. Yeah, there's also, my only other notes there's lots of space, like we can get pretty creative with arranging where the buses go. Like at you could see what the pieces laid out, like, and I also have, there is enough room for a public restroom if we did want to put one there, because we briefly talked about that. It's not one of the criteria. But there is enough space here that if we did decide to recommend that, we would have enough room. So pretty happy with 20.
For the sake of us having a varied discussion, I'm interested to hear from folks on sites 2 and 19. They're both in the top 5 just from a criteria scoring model, but they got no dots. So there's obviously concerns. I know one of the things that got brought up on site 2 was a fire station proximity, and just technically I think can fit, but it would be pretty tight, maybe some conflicts over there. So I jotted that note down about concerns about emergency services on site 2. But sites 2 and 19, does anybody want to give me thoughts on?
19, I have a lot of thoughts on. I was actually glad that there were no dots there because I think it's pretty disastrous.
For the sake of 19, that's on the east side of Kentucky across from Watson Park.
Yeah.
There's post office, entrance and exit for dropping off mail. There's some single family homes. There's some challenges there space-wise, but
So yeah, so they have parking on the east side. There's parking stalls on the east side of that road. And sometimes there are people there, but a lot of times there aren't. But when there aren't people, it's used as like an addition to the turning lane to go to North Lawrence. And the traffic there just backs up really reliably at every single, pretty much starting at 3 p.m. going till about 6, and it backs up at least a block, sometimes 2. On game days, it's all the way to 9th Street, like how far the traffic backs up. And they're all just trying to turn right to get to North Lawrence. Or to get to the highway out there, so. It's it would be, I think it would have a really high impact on traffic. There, I think it would be really difficult during different events.
Like right now, there's like literally no way to get to North Lawrence
Yeah.
except for that road because of New Hampshire being closed. So it's like
Yeah.
anytime Lawrence decides to do that too, that'll just bottleneck all that traffic to whatever one street will go that way, you know, so it'll be Mass Street or like right now it's Mass Street or Sixth Street, I guess, but so yeah, definitely a concerning spot.
Also departing from there for the buses, like we have to go on Sixth Street in order to do that, which means we'd have a signal to turn left onto Sixth Street, which would be west facing, and then to go south again on Tennessee, that we would need some sort of traffic control there, and that would also like do something to the flow of traffic. It is really difficult to make that left turn onto Tennessee. We try to avoid it if at all possible. Yeah. And the closest light is Maine, I believe.
Yes.
And that's also difficult to get our buses on. There's a lot of traffic control on that area, in that neighborhood. And we try to avoid heading there if we can as well. So yeah, that it would be a big impact for departing specifically for the buses.
Thoughts on either 2 or 19 and the concerns on this?
I mean, I think that we can unanimously eliminate 2.
I think 19 goes as well. Like, it just doesn't seem feasible to me.
Maybe I'll say just for posterity that I'm less concerned about the fire trucks in 2. We already work with them. It seems we have an agreement. We have a professional courtesy to each other. We
It's
communicate.
the way that they have to block everything to then back in.
Yes,
and how
they do that
frequently
multiple
they-
times a day.
they do
yeah,
that
And
all
sometimes they do
day.
it just to wash the truck.
Sometimes.
But we will do whatever, like we have people, there's a firefighter to bus driver pipeline. Drivers that become firefighters and there's firefighters that become bus drivers when they're ready to retire. So we have a good relationship with the fire department typically.
You know, you don't want a slow response. Like that.
I could say I'm confident we would not. We would work with them.
I know you would.
Yeah.
It just seems like putting an awful lot of strain in a small area for some really
It is
important.
tight. I do agree that it's
Yeah.
tight. That's the
Yeah.
only
Also thinking
note I know.
about,
Yeah.
there'll be people waiting for buses and kind of lingering there, and I think doing that right by the fire station maybe is. I see if the behavior we see at the bus station bus transfer area downtown. Continues wherever this goes, that's a bad place. To have that go there.
And it doesn't have like good pedestrian funneling is another note I have for 2. Like we will have mid-block dart out people. So it'd be the same as the current site we have now. Where we'd want to put like a crosswalk or something there. There's not a ton of room for crosswalks there with that alley. So it's concerning to me. Yeah, it's just the space that's concerning to me for 2 though.
All right, see a good amount of dots on 10 and 15. Sites 10 and 15. Those are both privately owned sites. I can certainly think of some good benefits of that, but anybody want to talk to me about their thoughts behind it?
Seem like lots that no one is ever able to use anyway.
Yeah.
So
Regarding 10, the owners of that building are probably not gonna cooperate. We went through a debacle trying to conceive the downtown grocery in that area. The owners of that site. I just don't see them cooperating. Knowing who they are. Yeah, it is.
Talking about that for years.
Yeah.
Decades.
Just print your own
They're notorious for not being very cooperative, so I would be really shocked if they were to say, oh, yeah. Listen, I would be glad if they did, but I don't.
It's a fun area though. It's got character. My note for that one is that there's weird spaces, like the lighting is weird and there's weird spaces, like there's shadowy areas. Like we would have to like I don't know, revitalize it somehow,
Oh, like-
but it's fun. Yeah.
Stable kind of.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, yeah, it's cool, but it's definitely Lawrencey, but it can be weird.
Way to describe
That was my big take, just on both of those, is that both of them are kind of underutilized spaces and in a place where space is kind of at a premium. If those owners, like you said, if those owners were willing to sell at a reasonable cost, that'd be nice use of those spaces to just make something else happen there, but.
They've been approached and they've said they would sell. Is that part of the?
Yeah, so the only reason they're on the list scored is because we reached out to all private sites. These two property owners did respond back and said they'd be willing to sell. Now, we don't at this stage get into price negotiations and specifics around exactly how it'll be set up, but we've got early indications that they'd be willing. There's, of course, risk in that.
Right,
Be
yeah,
pleasantly surprised.
yeah, as long as our like offer is more than their tax cut or whatever they take on those. like,
Yeah.
You didn't get to look very closely at like 15.
Curious to see what Emily has to say about 15, because there's questions about like the walking from it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't choose it.
Yeah.
Because it seemed like a hike to me.
Where exactly is that one? Because that's.
It's,
Yeah,
Like south of the pool.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Just-
okay, behind that Douglas, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's like the other spots we're considering right now, like up in the northwest corner of downtown are, to me, like, you talk to, like they're kind of more on the edge.
I feel like it's north-south, pretty central, but it is pretty,
Or
right. I feel like it's too far off of the Mass Street things that I would consider.
Between Kentucky and Tennessee, right?
Mhm.
yes.
One interesting thing
Like
about,
any corner from the.
Right.
Yeah.
one interesting thing about going to the presentation from you was seeing the transportation disadvantaged zones, which I had never got a chance to like really think about or look up before. And they all seem to be east of Mass. That's really, it's not something I would have guessed. But it's true, yeah. So we know that if we put something east of Mass or more easterly, that makes it better for people walking.
Mhm.
It's more convenient.
That's also the same reason that I didn't choose the borders one either.
Cool, yeah. And that was 15, the borders one, right?
Borders is 10.
Or 10? 10, yeah, sorry.
Bank is 15.
That's right, the one we were just talking about.
The
Yeah.
reason was because it seemed too far.
Yeah. For schlep reasons.
I did get some information from Dustin Smith, city engineer, is will help as we get into design and construction on this project. He looked up crash data. No crashes in 10 years on that 7th Street section that we were discussing earlier. So maybe a lot of near crashes, sounds
Maybe
like.
because it's so terrifying that everyone slows down. I'm terrified of hitting a pedestrian right there. It's the
I
worst.
think the crosswalk helped when they
Yeah,
put that in.
it does.
I think it really,
When you're trying to.
yeah.
I always feel like there's this shadow.
We get the data for the rest of the sites for the next meeting, just kind of get a look at it, see
Should
what
be
those
able-
kind of,
I think a map exists already.
yeah,
You can get
yeah.
a map.
Okay, cool.
I know we're a few minutes away from 10, so I just want to take this brief pause to say, I know we haven't talked through every specific site. Thank you all for doing the work there's a lot of quick work to digest a lot of big information, so we've got time to keep working through it. I would like, if possible, if you could send me other thoughts that you wrote down, or if you wrote them down and want to leave your packets, I'd like to characterize, talked about today, what's on the board, via stickers, what's in the chat, to try to help prepare us for next month. I think what I'd like to propose is based on all that information. I'll take a stab at reorganizing the top 5 list based on what you all have indicated of more your preferences or what sort of intangibles have come into play based on what we've talked about. Have that guide our discussion next month. You certainly got all the information. Look back at if you've got other thoughts, and you're welcome to send me that course of the month as well. But how does that feel, or what else would help if we're trying to get next month towards?
Can we eliminate the ones that got no votes from anybody? Because I know just narrowing it down is helpful. for me.
Agree.
Yeah, what does the group think about that?
Yep.
So eliminating
002,
two,
19,
Three,
00, 003 and 013. It's only 4 out of 14, so we still have a pretty robust.
19 was what we were, no, right? Cause it's, yeah, cause it's right on Poppy Street and then number two, yep.
That was the one right by the fire station.
Yeah.
Then 2 and
3 and 13, okay. That was like, I don't think this.
Would it be, okay, I really only got a couple minutes. What if I did like a list and send it to you in an email?
Yes, that's, to clarify, that's what would be really helpful for me. Is
Okay.
if you could email me
Yeah.
any notes or thoughts you have. Maybe over the course of this week or the weekend, so that I can pull together some type of public synopsis that will help you all and help the public kind of see what direction we're headed.
Then the packet has some questions on it. I definitely didn't get a chance to look at them all. Can I take the packet
Yes.
and then try to email you back the answers to the questions on those? And then for the ranking, the individual ranking, I don't think
That may not
we're ready.
Yeah, that may not help us at this point.
Okay.
Other than since we've kind of already done the ranking of these stickers, we've talked through some of the
I get
elimination.
it. Okay. So
So
I
I
just send the notes and that won't be like a violation of the meeting rule or anything.
because I'll post that all back out publicly. We won't do that on a reply all email where it's like all of us on the same email, just email me directly. And then I will post back out for you all and also for members of the public, kind of what people's thoughts on existing sites. How things are shaping up for a new draft ranked list next month. I'll try to get that out as soon as possible, so y'all have time to sit with it, because I know there's a lot of different nuances to each of these sites.
Adam, I know you mentioned this, but did you say you wanted that by the end of this week?
Ideally, yeah, if possible, at the end of this week, it would help for the timeline.
Did we decide September?
sounds like it.
Yeah, so we have our next month meeting scheduled already. I did have a question about, are we gonna need an October meeting? We can discuss that more next month. I'm not sure, it might be difficult to predict right now what our next hour of work together looks like. But ideally, at the end of next month's meeting, you all will feel comfortable recommending 3 to 5 sites for the city commission to advance to concept phase. That would be the conclusion of this group's work. At that point, a lot of the process is going to remain public as we get into concept designs and those get refined. That'll remain public work, but I hope you all would engage in. But this group would have fulfilled its purpose by getting recommended concepts up to the city commission.
Then we can have a block party.
Yes. Looking at these, like, where's the best block party?
That's after the next meeting, or is there
The next meeting might be the last meeting.
next one?
So the work of this committee is to identify that rank order, small set that goes to the commission.
Is the next meeting on the 16th or the 23rd?
Good note. We moved it to the 23rd. There's we had a doodle poll process to get us there because I think there were some conflicts. And I think we should be in good shape for most folks on the 23rd.
We got my calendar.
That's going to be in Winfield the week of the 16th.
All right. Anything else?
That's for me.
Okay,
That's fine.
like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No.
All right. Motion's been made to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Meeting adjourned,
I've been there going
10:00.
I've got.
I wrote most of my notes down.
T-shirts.
Okay.
Yeah, or at least the ones I felt that weren't completely in the criteria.
Yep.
Thanks, Adam.
I was in there 20 times. I went last year. I don't go every year. I probably won't make it this year, but I try to go every year.
I think everyone. I think it's like.
How my son's
I feel like. It's like, God, how did the transportation? Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate it. It goes to you.